Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Really Truly Ruthie. Chapter 2, Goofy Ruthie. Ruthie was quiet in the car on the way home. Tired, sweetheart? Her mother asked. A little, said Ruthie, but may I stop off at Kit's house and walk home afterwards? I need to talk to Kit for a minute. She should be home from Uncle Hendricks by now. All right, but don't stay long, said her mother. You know that Kit has chores to do, and you've both had a long day. Thanks, said Ruthie. She hopped out of the car and ran to Kit's door. This time it was Charlie who opened the door when Ruthie knocked. Hey, he teased Ruthie. Long time no see. Ruthie blushed. Was Charlie hinting that she was a pest? Well, she could not worry about the right now. She had to see Kit right away. Are Kit and your mother's back from your Uncle Hendricks? She said. Mother's staying at Uncle Hendricks tonight and tomorrow, said Charlie, but Kit's back. She's in the kitchen. Gosh, Ruthie, what's your hurry? Didn't you spend the day together? But Ruthie couldn't stop to answer. She ran full tilt to the kitchen. Luckily, Kit was alone peeling apples. She looked surprised to see Ruthie. Ruthie held up her hand to stop Kit from talking. Kit, she said urgently, I saw a paper at the bank. You, your family, you're going to be evicted December 28th. This day after tomorrow. But, gasped Kit, they said after the holidays. I guess the bank meant after the Christmas holiday, not the New Year's holiday, said Ruthie. Now listen, Kit, don't get mad at me, but my parents gave me $10 for Christmas. And please, you've got to take it, Anne. No, Kit interrupted, shaking her head. Thanks, but $10 won't solve our problem. We owe more than $200. Tiredly, Kit untied her apron. I'll have to go down to Hendricks and tell Mother the bad news about December 28th, she said. It will be hard, said Ruthie, but your Uncle Hendrick is rich. Your mother can ask him for the money. She already did, said Kit slowly and miserably, and he already said no. Suddenly, Kit slumped into a chair and put her head in her hands. Ruthie had never seen her friend look so defeated. She sat down too and listened as Kit poured out all her sorrow. Mother will be so upset, Kit said. Uncle Hendrick will say, I told you so. He'll gloat and be glad. Uncle Hendrick wants us to lose our house and have to move into his gloomy old house with him and be servants for him. We'll have to if we do lose the house, because then we'll lose the Borders too. And they're the only hope we have. Oh, being evicted would be so awful, so humiliating. Ruthie knew exactly what Kit meant. She and Ruthie had seen the sad, disgraceful side of a family's furniture and household goods. Books, pots and pans, toys and clothes dumped in a jumble on the sidewalk for all to see because the family had been evicted from their home. Ruthie could not bear the thought of such a horrible thing happening to Kit's family. There had to be some way to get the money to prevent it. Ruthie spoke gently. What about your Aunt Millie, she said. She'd lend you the money, wouldn't she? Kit nodded. I know what, said Ruthie. Let's go to my house and call Aunt Millie right now. The Kitterdges didn't have a phone anymore because they couldn't afford it, so they used the Smithson's phone when they needed to make a call. If Aunt Millie came here on the train tomorrow and brought the money, you'd have it in plenty of time. Tomorrow's only the 27th of December. Aunt Millie doesn't have a phone, said Kit. There's only one phone in the whole county, and it's miles away from her cabin. Really? Only one phone in the entire county? A letter wouldn't get to her in time. So I guess the only solution would be Mother to go see Aunt Millie and bring the money back. Poor Mother. Where'd she even get the train fare? I don't know. Ruthie's heart beat hard. She had an idea. What if you and I go get the money? She said. Kit made a face and shook her head. Don't be silly, Ruthie, she said. I'm not being silly, said Ruthie. I've never been more serious in my life. Listen to the plan. Tomorrow you and I use my $10 and buy train tickets. We go to Aunt Millie's, get the money, and bring it back. Then I give it to my father. He puts it on the bank on December 28th, and the whole problem is solved without any worry or Ruthie, stop. Or shame, Kit finished for her. Ruthie nodded. That's a crazy plan, said Kit. Ruthie remembered what her mother had said about apples and kindness. Crazy makes sense at a time like this, Ruthie said. We've got to go at least try, Kit. Your mother's going to be at Uncle Hendrick's all day tomorrow. My mother will be volunteering at the soup kitchen until late. When any luck, we'll be back with the money before anyone knows they're gone. I'll have to work it out with Charlie to do my afternoon chores for me, Kit said slowly. I guess I could tell Mrs. Howard that I'm spending the day with you. And you could tell your mother that you're spending the day with me, which will be true. Does that mean you'll do it? Ruthie asked. I guess it does, said Kit, as if she could hardly believe it herself. Good, said Ruth quickly. She stood up. I'll go to the Union Station early tomorrow morning to buy the tickets while you do your morning chores. And I'll meet you at the station at 8:30. Our train leaves at 8:45. I know because it's the same train I take when I go horseback riding lessons. Don't be late. And she left before Kit could change her mind. Where is Kit? Ruthie wondered the next morning. She looked at her wrist watch. It's already after 8:30. Kit searched the bustling crowd at Union Station, eager to see her friend's familiar face. But when she did see a familiar face, Ruthie's heart sank. Oh no, she thought. It was Charlie. Quickly, Ruthie shrank in the corner of the wooden bed she was sitting on. She tried to hide her face behind her pocketbook, hoping that Charlie would not see her. A second later, Ruth felt a tug on the bow on the top of her hat. She saw two big feet planted in front of her. Ruthie looked up with only her eyes, saying nothing. Okay, goofy Ruthie, said Charlie. The jig is up. I'm here to take you home. Ruthie didn't move. Come on, Ruthie, said Charlie. Kit told me all about your crazy plan, and I called the whole thing off, so let's go home. Ruthie sat stubbornly as if she were glued to the bench. Charlie sighed and sat down next to her. Listen, Ruthie, he said patiently. It's nice for you to want to help, but you can't. I know that you think you're setting off on this quest like a hero in a fairy tale. Some story that begins with once upon a time and ends with happily ever after. But you're not. This is real life, not one of your fairy tales, and you're just a kid. Ruthie frowned. She had sort of thought the trip would be like an adventure in the story, but she did not want to admit that to Charlie. You can't talk me out of this, she said, so don't bother trying. I'm going to Aunt Millie's. That's ridiculous, said Charlie. You've never been to Mountain Hollow or Aunt Millie's cabin. You've never even met Aunt Millie. How will you find her? People will help me, said Ruthie. I'm going, that's frightening. Ruthie, Charlie began. You are not. I already bought the tickets, Ruthie cut in. Round trip. What? Charlie asked. He gave an exasperated sigh, then he slapped his legs and stood up. Well, he said, towering over Ruthie, if you're going to Mountain Hollow, then I'm going. That's the deal. Ruthie looked down at her lap so that Charlie could not see his expression. She knew perfectly well that just about everybody at Kit's house had the same opinion of her that Charlie did. They all thought she was goofy Ruthie, more at home in her imaginary world of fairy tale princesses than the real world of the profession. She was funny and nice, but not practical or capable. Even Sterling and Kit, her very best friends, believed Ruthie didn't really truly know how damaging and terrible the depression was because her father had not lost his job. They underestimated Ruthie's compassion, how deeply she felt for their sorrows and losses as her own. Most of the time, it was okay with Ruthie not to be taken seriously. She would deliberately pretend to be daffy and flighty sometimes, just to cheer everyone up and make them relax and laugh. But right now, Ruthie was tired of being dismissed. Ruthie stood up and looked Charlie straight in the eye. All right, let him come along, she said to herself. I'll show him. In fact, I'll show them all. I'll get the money no matter what happens. And then instead of giving the money to my father, I'll give it to Mrs. Kitterdges right in front of everybody. And when I do, no one will think I'm goofy Ruthie ever again. All right, Ruthie said. All right, it's a deal. She held her hand out, and Charlie shook it. Our train is boarding now. Ruthie picked up the basket of sandwiches and apples she had bought, as all good adventurers do. Follow me. Charlie followed Ruthie through the crowded station, down the platform, and on the train. When they were sat in those seats, Charlie asked, how'd you know how to buy the tickets, and which train we need to take, and how to read the schedule and all? Oh, said Ruthie breezily, I take this 8:45 train a lot. Almost every Saturday, in fact. I take horseback riding lessons just across the river in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. I know that from there, the train takes 2 more hours or so to get to Pocton, which is the closest stop to Mountain Hollow. Ah, said Charlie with a teasing twinkle in his eye. Horseback riding, of course. Gotta know how to ride a horse if you're going to be a fairy tale princess. Ruthie sighed inwardly. Charlie's needling, even though it was gentle joshing that it was, only made her feel all the more determined to prove herself. She was pleased when the conductor came back and spoke to her as if she were a grown-up, saying, "Hello there, Miss Smithens. By your ticket, it looks as if you're going farther than usual today." Yes, sir," said Ruthie. "Enjoy your trip," said the conductor. "Thank you, sir," said Ruthie. The train was stuffy and crowded, full to overflowing with families traveling away from Cincinnati for holiday visits. Ruthie was so tense and excited that it seemed to her that the minutes were dragging by, even more slowly than the miles were chugging by. It seemed as though the train would never get to their stop. She couldn't concentrate on her book, even though she was in the middle of one of her favorite stories, East of the Sun and West of the Moon. It was a nice distraction when she and Charlie got off and traded seats with an elderly man and woman who didn't like riding facing backwards. Later, when Ruthie took out sandwiches for an early lunch for herself and Charlie, she gave some to two teenage girls across the aisle. As they ate, she chatted with them about where they were going. There was a little boy in the seat behind them who was crying and fretful, so Ruthie, who remembered how very well it felt to be bored on a train, made a puppet out of her purple flowered hanky and amused the boy so that her mother could rest. "Thank you, miss," said the boy's mother. "I'm on my way to a big party that my hometown has every year between Christmas and New Year's Day. It's at the church's hall, and everyone in the whole town comes. There's food and music all day long, so I need to save my energy for dancing." "Sounds wonderful," said Ruthie. Just then, the conductor called out, "Next stop, Lewis Falls. Lewis Falls, next stop." "Pocton's after this," said Ruthie to Charlie, looking at the train schedule. "I wish I knew the best way to get from Pocton to Mountain Hollow." "I don't know either," said Charlie. "Our family always drives when we visit Aunt Millie." The elderly lady piped up. "Dearie," she said to Ruthie, "did I hear you saying you were going to Mountain Hollow?" Yes," said Ruthie. "We're getting off at Pocton." "Well, you do just that," said the elder man, turning to face Ruthie. "But if you're walking, it's faster if you get off at Lewis Falls. There's a logging road that runs right along the creek from Lewis Falls to Mountain Hollow. It's steep and unpaved, but it's much shorter." Charlie looked doubtful, but Ruthie said, "Thanks, we'll get off at the next stop then." But even Ruthie had her doubts when she and Charlie clambered down the train at Lewis Falls. First of all, there wasn't really a station. There was just a rough wooden platform. Secondly, the only other passengers who got off the train at Lewis Falls were the two teenage girls she shared the lunch with, and they disappeared down the hill right away. First of all, the logging road the old man had told her was much more like a muddy gully than a road. It wound up a mountain, zigzagging under low-hanging tree branches that were all gnarled and twisted together, like the brambles that grew up around Sleeping Beauty's castle, Ruthie said to herself. She knew better than to say it out loud to Charlie, who'd only scoff it off if she mentioned a fairy tale, and who already thought she was a goofy Ruthie, a less than reliable guide. And that's the end of that chapter.